Hey everyone, it's Kai from WCC. Happy Christmas, Merry Holidays. Maybe I got that around. Depending on where you're from, just be merry and be happy. Today we're going to look at the new Gold Paladin cards from Mysterious Fortune. We have a deck for that. Unfortunately, we don't have the physical cards because Australia Post is not very good at delivering things on time, especially during Christmas. So we're going to have to make do with the fancy Photoshop editing and creating a deck with just pictures. So we're going to look at the new Agravain deck. It is, with my build, I focused it more around purely Agravain. There are a lot of builds for Gold Paladin, so you can use this as just a reference, but definitely build it the way you want to. I've seen accel builds being played. I've seen Pelennor being played, which is really cool. And I've seen hybrids of Agravain and other stuff, so definitely play around with the deck. I've basically just focused it more on Agravain because it's the new stuff, but it does do what it wants to do very effectively. So we'll go through the deck, we'll go through the new cards, and go about how it's being played and what the metagame is like. So start off the new card, Knight of Fury Agravain. This is the cool big buddy that you get from this set. When it attacks, counterblast 1, put all your rearguards into soul, and then look at the same number of cards from the top of your deck as the number of rearguards you called this turn, and then call any number of them onto your rearguard, and then shuffle your deck. And then it has a second effect, Soul Blast 12, and until the end of fight, your opponent can only call normal units. This includes superior calls. So that means they can't call trigger units. That means they cannot guard with trigger units because that counts as calling. They also can't use protect markers as well. So pretty much seals the game when you play it. One thing of note that this Soul Blast 12, you don't have to actively build towards it. You don't have to go be a miser and go, I don't want to use any soul at all because all I want to do is Soul Blast 12. Don't be afraid to use soul. One thing with this deck is that you gain a lot of soul just from using Agravain's effect. So, yeah, you naturally build yourself up to Soul Blast 12. Generally speaking, by turn 3 of grade 3, you will be able to use this Soul Blast 12 and just seal off the game. Of course, with a lot of accel decks nowadays, third turn grade 3 pretty much means that you've won the game. But, yeah, Agravain kind of just tells you, you win now, alright? This is the you win button. So, really nice effect. Don't really, be careful. Don't actively build into it. You'll just naturally get it. The main effect of this card is the first one. This basically turns your front rows twice, right? So when you first write grade 3, you get another accel circle. You have 3 front row attackers. Now you have 6 if you use this effect. As long as you don't just get a handful, don't look at the top X of your deck and they're all triggers. But you basically get way more attacks than you should normally get. And your opponent just has to hope they get a trigger in the damage zone, or there is no way they're going to effectively guard your turns. When you ride Agravain twice, or when you have 2 accel circles, that is the sweet spot. You can kind of just sit on Agravain then and just kind of just build your field and just bash. And that should be good. So Agravain, really great card. I really love this Agravain playstyle because it's just so, how do you say it, Luxacky. So yeah, Agravain is a great new addition. Let's move on to the next card. It is Full Cavalier Dragon. Now, this card is a Soul Blast 1. Look at the top card of your deck and call it to rearguard, and one of your vanguards gets plus 5k until the end of turn. So one thing with Agravain is that when you use the suck in everything to soul effect, you don't get a booster. So that thing is just going to hit for 12k. Feels bad sometimes. So when you play Full Cavalier Dragon, your 12k becomes a 17k. So you can then hit Force, you can hit numbers against accel, and then you have 2 Full Cavalier Dragons. You're hitting 22 unboosted, so that's very, very good. So unfortunately with Agravain, you'll never have a boost, but with this guy, you'll always be hitting some decent number. And it calls 1, so that this card is like 2 calls in 1, which is good. It does use a Soul Blast though, but don't be discouraged. Your Soul Blast 1 equals a card onto the field. That means when you suck it in, you've basically gained the card back. So very nice, works very good with this deck. Has an accel card too, so all good. Your last grade 3 is Sagramore. Sagramore kind of does the same thing, but it lets you draw a card and then call something else, so it works well with Din Drain. But otherwise, yeah, Sagramore kind of lets you do the call thing as well, so that's why we have that in the deck. Your grade 2s, your new card, Liberator of the Flute Escrad. When placed, if your Vanguard is Knight of Fury, Agravain, or a Liberator of the Flute Escrad, look at the top card of your deck, call it to rearguard, and then you can pay a Counterblast 1, and this unit gains power plus 5k until the end of turn. So this card is really amazing in this deck, because as long as you have an Escrad, or when you ride this as grade 2, or if you have a grade 3 Agravain on your Vanguard circle, you basically get a free call, alright? Basically, it's like, and then this Escrad, if it comes off from an Agravain call as well, it works too. So it's not one of those when it comes into play from hand. No, this is just when placed, bam, you get the effect as long as your Vanguard is something. It does have that plus 5k. It does come in handy. One of the things you have to learn when playing this deck is Counterblast management. So before, when we talk about Counterblast management, this usually means that you have so much Counterblast that you want to use, you don't know what to use and what not to use. And yeah, so people run counter charges, but it's ideally better not to run counter charges if they conflict with the deck. So that's where the Counterblast management came into play. With this deck is that your main effect is just a Counterblast 1. You have counter charges in the deck because Din Drain does counter charge if you need it. But otherwise, you have a bunch of these other Counterblast ones that aren't required. They give something like plus 5k, so like, is there a point in using? You have to learn when to use those power gains, because those little extra power gains that you get will really be able to decide the game for you, and it means that you'll end the game, used up all your Counterblast. That's the position you want to be with. You don't want to end the game, you have like so much unflipped Counterblast. That kind of means that you haven't been using your Counterblast effectively. There is more ways to just manage that Counterblast. So that Counterblast 1 does come in handy sometimes. You just have to learn when to use it. Okay, but otherwise, this card's insane. When you play it, bam, get another card. Usually at grade 2, you can Escrad and Escrad. It's like the best feeling. You just make up a whole field for free, and your opponent just face palms and feels sad. Yeah, Escrad is amazing. We're running another new card. It is Knight of Hard Work, Alienor. When it attacks, perform all of the effects below according to the number of rearguards you have called this turn. So call 2 or more, the shooting gets plus 5k until the end of battle, and then 4 or more, then you may have it gain power 10k. If you do at the end of battle, put it into your soul. So calling 2 units, calling 4 units, not too hard. You can definitely always call 2 units. So this will basically be just a 14k attacker. But when you do your Agravain turns, if you call this from an Agravain, you basically will pretty much have called 4 or more units this turn. So it's just hitting 24. It's hitting nice numbers, so your opponent just has to guard more. Pretty much it. It's nice. The other effect when it goes to soul is pretty nice. It frees up slots, so you can call more units next turn. But of course you lose an intercept, but hopefully you don't need an intercept. If you do need that intercept, just don't suck it into soul. But I think most of the time you'll be just getting the 24 and just bashing face, because that's pretty much what you want to do. Not much else to say. It puts in the work. It does hard work, I guess. So it just lets you hit those numbers, hit harder. A lot of people don't expect it. It really messes up their guarding, conserving their guard. So yeah, 4 of in the deck pretty much. And then we're running Kaiden as well. Where's it? Hole. Kaiden and Hole, that combo, it's just good. Those cards are able to call more cards. They're able to look at top 3, call an Escrad, and then just draw that card later. And then those work when being called from Agravain. So they kind of extend your attack pattern. And then your Hoel just kind of makes things hit numbers, okay? You call it from an Agravain, yeah. It's the thing in front hits numbers. So overall, nice little combo. We're running both of them. You see that we don't have a lot of slots because our next grade 1 slot is also taken up by Din Drain, which you kind of want to run 4 of, because just when you call it, you get the effect. So there's so many ways to call things in this deck. You might as well run 4. Just gaining that draw. Sometimes you want to gain the counter charge because you don't want to get denied. But mainly getting that draw just kind of fills your hand up quite a bit. It's pretty crazy when you're like beating your opponent really hard, you're committing a loss to the field, but you still have a decent hand to guard with. That's why Din Drain is still in the deck. And our last new card is Little Battler Tron. This guy's back. It's kind of like a weird effect when its attack hits the Vanguard. And if your Vanguard grade is less than or equal to your opponent's, you may look at the top card of your deck and call it to your rear guard. So kind of a weird effect. It doesn't really work when you're going first. It has another effect when you place it in counterblast 1, it gets 5k. So just getting 5k, you just really have to know when to use that effect. But that second effect is just that on-hit pressure when you're going second. That could kind of help you out. But otherwise, we're only running 2 of this. This card is actually, in my opinion, pretty decent. That second effect, I do like, even though it kind of only works when you go second. But there's the biggest problem with grade 1s here is that you just don't have any space in your deck to put more. Because you're only running 10. You're running 10 grade 1s. You have 12 grade 2s. And you have 11 grade 3s. And you are running a high grade 3 count. It's kind of popular these days to run high grade 3 counts. But especially for this deck, I'll tell you why later. But being 12k is good. And that's why we run a lot. And all of those grade 3 cards kind of contribute to the overall game plan of your deck. So that's why they're also important too. Moving on to the triggers. We are running 8 front, 4 draw. 8 front is just good nowadays for a lot of these accel decks. Before, crit was king, because, yeah, 2 damage is great, but now a lot of these new accel decks can really capitalize with all the front triggers, except, like, Murakumo, which doesn't need it, because it just gets free power all the time, like, insane amounts of power for free, so just running crits is good for that. But this one, you can really capitalize on the fronts. You pretty much attack so many times. You compress your deck a lot with Agravain. Don't forget, you don't have to call everything from your top deck's checks with Agravain. You can call the ones you want, keep your triggers in the deck, and then just trigger them later. So 8 fronts, triggering 1 front with this deck after so many attacks is actually just insane. Adds so much value to the deck, so that's why we're going with fronts. And we are running Kriff. This is actually relevant. You do want to run Kriff because you can kind of make your opponent think you're running accel. That's very small optimization. So how does this deck work in the current metagame? So long story short, go first, bash phase, done. So one interesting thing with this deck is that you can use accel 1 to great effect. Currently the metagame is filled with a lot of accel decks, and this set also, Mysterious Fortune, came with Great Nature as well, which is another decent accel clan that I'm sure a lot of people will pick up. But you're also competing with Pale Moon. You're also competing with Murakumo, super great accel decks. Also Tachikaze. In this situation, accel 1 is pretty good. When you go first with this deck against these accel decks, you can go accel 1 as long as your hand is pretty decent, and then suddenly everything is hitting like a truck, alright? Your recalls of Agravain, you call them on your accel 1 circles, they're hitting 22 if they're a grade 3. And that's why the grade 3s are important. 12 plus 10 is 22. Hitting those nice numbers against accel. Trigger in front means you're just hitting so much damage turn. It's pretty crazy. So yeah, accel 1 is still legit. Those accel 1 markers that you got from BCS is still relevant. Accel 2 is kind of okay. It just means that all your multi-attacks are going to get shut down by just 1 single trigger. But it does come in handy against your force matchups. Right now, the force matchups will be Neo Nectar, that will definitely see play. Shadow Paladin, probably one of the best force clans right now. And Genesis, that's kind of okay. So against those decks, you generally want to go accel 2, in my opinion, because just getting the extra draw is better than just getting another 5k that makes your opponent have to guard with 10ks instead of 5ks. Getting those extra draws means you draw into your nulls, which are more useful against the force matchup, especially against Neo Nectar and Genesis, where they don't get as many attacks as a Shadow Paladin, and they don't really have like crazy guard restricts. So those nulls will really come in handy. It just gives you those extra cards to survive one more turn, so you can just multi-attack them and kill them again. But yeah, so it's like Protect clans, not really that relevant nowadays. So you can just kind of just see if your hand is good and go accel 1 against them. So accel clans, Protect clans, those clans have 12k. Check your hand. If your hand is half decent, you can go accel 1 and just bash their face. If your hand is not very good then, or you're against a force clan, go accel 2 and kind of conserve and build up to your... Just play normally. Try maybe not commit as many cards in one turn, but just build up to your Soul Blast 12 and then just push them there. This deck is actually, like, against the big dogs of the meta at the moment, Pale Moon, pretty good. Just rush them hard. It's kind of a coin flip like in standard, because just go first and win. But yeah, it's against Pale Moon. Rush hard, rush fast, beat them. Same thing with Murakumo. You're gonna eat a board wipe. One thing now is everyone is kind of used to the board wipe, but you have to think of ways to recover after a board wipe. This deck is okay because you have so many ways to call another card. Sagamore, draw, call. Calvier is like a 2-call. Escrad, another call you can make. After a board wipe, you can still kind of make a lot of ways to just make a field and then just repeatedly bash in the game. So overall, I think I like this card a lot. Really fun to play. Really luck-sacky. It makes your opponent feel bad when you just go Escrad, or like Kai into Escrad, or into just make like Field of Dindrain. Yeah, crazy deck. I actually really like this. I wished I could have played this in BCS, but I couldn't. But yeah, I love Gold Paladin. We'll be doing the other clans very soon. Probably either Great Nature or Neo Nectar next. But yeah, Gold Paladin all the way, guys. See you guys in the next video. Bye.